I have no fear of missing out. Neither should you. I love God. I love my wife. I love my kids. I'm blessed to have all of them. So maybe somebody could please tell me what am I missing? What am I missing out? I have everything that I need. And this isn't me trying to brag or anything, because I know not everybody's circumstances are the same and they have all those things. But I'm talking more to people that do have most, if not all of those things, and they just can't glance up and look at it. Literally and figuratively, because they're staring down at their phone, checking constant notifications, and looking for the next little dopamine hit, little dopamine rush. I just never got this obsession about always trying to be in the loop. It seems stressful. I mean, doesn't everyone seem so stressed out now? It's funny how we have all these things that are supposed to make our life more streamlined and quick and easy, and it seems to be going in the opposite direction. You know, we have breaking news going on all the time. All the time, it's breaking news. And is it really breaking? Is it really monumental? Does it really affect your life in the moment? Very, very rarely, if ever. People miss joyous moments in their life. They miss time with their kids. They miss out on going to the park and pushing little Johnny on the swing, or taking little Susie out for ice cream. They miss those moments, or if they even indulge in those moments, they kind of do so from a distance. Yeah, they're physically present, their body is there, but their mind's not. Their eyes aren't. You take your kid to the playground and then you go find the nearest seat so you can look down and check your tweets. Meaningless. It's just fear of missing out. And you know what else is strange about it? I noticed that people stare at these little dopamine hit inducing things, their devices, their phones. I've been guilty of this before too. And you ever notice that nobody's ever smiling? Somebody types LOL, LMAO, and they're never actually laughing or smiling. Sometimes you think if they sat there for 5 or 10 more seconds, then a string of drool might fall down out of their mouth. Yeah, people miss a lot because of this fear of missing out. Stop trying to escape. That's what we do. We try to escape from joy. We try to escape from these things that are so beautiful, yet so simple. And we somehow flip the script because we filled our lives with too much materialism. And we don't appreciate these simple things that are supposed to be blessings. Husbands, let me talk to you. If you have a wife, you're blessed with somebody that loves you so much that they went to a justice of the peace. They went somewhere to get it legally documented, took your name. Hopefully they took your name. I have a whole other thing about that, but they took your livelihood. You're their soulmate. And you start a family together. You have all this beautiful stuff that you get into, and then at some point we change the narrative to like it's a burden or it's a prison to have all those things, because it takes time away from us watching Netflix and playing Xbox, and it's just ridiculous. I have this theory, this whole fear of missing out thing. Here's my theory. We're cowards. You're a coward. I'm a coward. You've been there. I've been there. We're innately cowards. Part of that falls in our sin nature, but we're cowards. We fear being a little uncomfortable for even a few moments. We just constantly crave a dopamine rush. We can't sit still. God puts all these miracles right in front of us. If you just open your eyes and look around, just the birds, just the trees. I'm not going to talk like a hippie here, but it rings true. The sunshine, the fresh air, and that just scratches the surface, and it's all around us, and we don't even look up. We've taken this to where stress and anxiety, which nobody logically would want, but deep down we've taken this stance of we relate stress, anxiety, apprehension to relevance, to importance. Almost like if I'm not working hard, if I'm not grinding, then I'm not doing enough, or I'm not relevant, I'm not important, I'm not keeping up with the Joneses. I'm missing out on something. We've reached this point where we totally disregard rest and appreciating God's work and the work that he lets us do. And by the way, you know that the Sabbath is a commandment, right? God actually commands us to rest. Now, when the creator of all things says that we need to take a break and appreciate things, I really think we should take cues. But no, we do the opposite. I remember a time where stuff was closed on Sunday, or it shut down very early. Now everything's just 24/7, open all the time. Everyone works on Sunday. They won't time to swing by the chapel for an hour, hour and a half, but they'll pick up every double shift that they can get. They make all kinds of plans, arrangements, stay busy, and maybe if you're lucky, in between, binging Netflix and doing all kinds of irrelevant activities and working unpaid overtime, so your boss maybe doesn't get on your nerves so much. Maybe, just maybe, make a little time for God. Make a little time for your wife. Make a little time for your husband. Make a little time for your kids. But nah, we don't want to miss out. We got to stay on the grind. And then you know what you get at the end of that? Nothing that you can take with you. You see, if you focus too hard on the things of this world and being attached to them and not wanting to miss out on them, you're going to get to the end of your life and you're going to have a question. I already know it. It's already building up. Was it really worth it? Was it worth missing all of those baseball games and soccer games and recitals and going out for ice cream because I just had to pick up another double shift? Because I had to get this work done at a certain amount of time when it could have waited, because I wanted to find out the latest news trend, because I wanted to go yell and freak out at somebody over a social media post. When you get towards the end of your life, if Lord willing, you have a long, fulfilled life to where you can actually reflect on it and go peacefully, which, by the way, isn't guaranteed. We're not even guaranteed the next day. But if you are afforded that opportunity, are you going to look back at your life and sit there and reminisce about, some tweet that you put out 8 years ago, or some show that you binge watched? It's going to be irrelevant. It really is. Now, I'm not trying to be a spoil sport. I know that you want to enjoy life. These things, when used appropriately, are blessings, but we've totally flipped the script. We flipped it into, we're taking these blessings and we've become so dependent on them, almost like a drug, like a psychological drug, that it's become more of a burden than many of us will admit, or the ones that will actually admit, hey, I got to cut down on my social media use. I got to cut down on watching so much TV. They'll admit it, but then they'll leave out the fact that they can't stop. It's an addiction. We look at people that are hooked on drugs. They're hooked on alcohol. We look at them and their struggles, and we can't put down our phones. We can't put down the controller. And we look at them as we're holier than thou, when it's the same thing. It's just whatever we're dealing with is legal and culturally acceptable. But it's no different. It's idols. And the point of this conversation is that the fear of missing out is an idol in itself. So what if you weren't at that event with people that you probably won't even be talking to in a year or two? So what if some people don't think that you're the coolest because you're not at every party? You're not at every get together. You miss things sometimes because, I don't know, your kids wanted to go play at the park. Your wife wanted to snuggle up and watch a movie with you. But you're missing out on what's going on with people that you probably won't remember in a few years, or to keep up with people and entities that would be okay if you disappeared off the face of the earth. I'll use work for an example. Now, I will say this, work is a good thing. It's created by God. I mean, God had Adam tending to the Garden of Eden. He had a job, and this is before the fall, by the way. So work is not a result of sin. Work is something that is good, and it gives man purpose that God has assigned to us. But what I'm talking about is putting work on a pedestal, and anything of this culture, anything that's finite, and putting it over God. So you feel like you're not going to be able to create these opportunities because you slow down a little bit and you appreciated what's going on in the present moment. You didn't appreciate mindfulness. I see a lot of stuff about mindfulness practices, that people actually have to download apps, meditation apps, and they have to take classes in education on being mindfulness, or just appreciating what's around them in the moment. But no, we can't even do that. We can't slow down long enough to appreciate it. We have to catch up on what's going on, the latest breaking news. And none of that matters in the end. I'll conclude by saying this: if you don't have a foundation with our wonderful and glorious God, if you don't have a connection through Jesus Christ, I'm going to get a little evangelical with you. But if you don't have those connections, all you really have is keeping up with all these notifications and all these alerts, because that's all you have, because all you can focus on what you have here and now. And then you're going to live your life, have a tattered relationship with your kids, have a tattered relationship with your spouse, and it might not seem like that on the surface level, but it will be diminished. You couldn't enjoy the people and things that really mattered, and then it fades away. You maybe live your little 70, 75, 80 years, whatever it is, which, by the way, the last handful of those, you're probably going to have tubes hooked up to your nostrils and be on all kinds of medications and be hooked up to all kinds of IVs. And if your brain is still in proper functioning form, you'll probably hit a moment of, was it all worth it? And especially if you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ. And if you haven't, at that point, that's all you have to focus on. That 70, 75, 80 years of whatever that won't matter going into eternity. I'll be honest, like a lot of the stuff that we obsess about and care about so much, it doesn't matter probably 5 minutes Within a day, I would say at most, you had a really funny comment, you had a cool tweet, you had a cool video that you saw. Maybe you share it with a handful of people because you want to keep in the loop. Saw something on the news. Here, let me send you that link. We forgot about it by the next day. It's irrelevant. We do that all the time. We've had all these great sayings and thoughts and ideas that we never deep dive into because we're on to the next thing because we don't want to get left behind. My point is, what's the problem with being left behind? This culture. It's going to change anyway. You know, one minute, something that's supposed to make you happy, studies find that it makes you sad. You find out about a food that's supposed to make you healthy and live longer. Next thing you know, they do a study and finds out it kills you. It gives you cancer. You know, 1 minute, this thing is trendy. This way of dressing, this way of talking is cool. And the next thing you know, man, it's played out. But people are constantly on their toes about this, trying to adapt and change. And we sit there and scoff at people that don't get caught up with that. I like to think I'm one of those people that doesn't just sway with the wind. And we sit there and we maybe mock them or we think like, oh, that person's so outdated and old school. More often than not, they got it figured out. We get jealous of people like that, whether we want to admit it or not, because we wish we had that kind of peace. And really, that kind of peace costs little to nothing. We pay hundreds, thousands of dollars to stay relevant to people that don't matter, to companies that only want our money and our attention. And if we were to drop dead tomorrow, most of those entities wouldn't care. At best, you'll get a pile of wilted flowers. And good luck and God bless. That's all you'll get. People sit here and, they work themselves to the bone, so they can keep up with the Joneses and buy stuff that they don't need. So they work a job that destroys their soul and compromises their morals and their duty to God. And instead of working to the Lord's standard, they quiet quit, or they zone out. And they do all of that stuff. And I've told this to many people before. They burn themselves up because they got to keep up. They got to keep up. I got to do this, and I got to work extra hours, and I got to do DoorDash on top of that, and I got to work overtime and blah blah blah. So because I got to keep up, I got to stay relevant. I don't want to miss out on anything. And they do. I'm telling you, if you drop dead tomorrow, that job would already be all over all over LinkedIn and all the job search things trying to replace you. Like within 2 to 3 weeks, you would have been replaced. They'll clean out your desk and they might send some flowers to the wake. That's about it. That's what we mean to this world at the end of it. So don't worry about missing out on things. Focus on what really matters, which is eternity, which is focusing on the Lord and his plan for you. And appreciate the things that he's put, the things that are a lot simpler than we try to make it. Stop trying to focus on adding more stuff to the plates that makes you more stressed out. Trying to add more streaming services, more video games, more news feeds, more this, that, and the third that, again, ultimately doesn't matter. So don't worry about missing out. I'm not worried about it. And whatever you're worried about missing out on, it's not really worried about you. So take care of yourselves, take care of your family, take care of take care of your loved ones, and take care of your relationship with God. Not just a little bit at a time, not just on Sunday morning for an hour. Make that the template of what you focus on, and you'll never miss out on what's important. All right, that's all I got to say, folks. Peace.